Burning Issy, Melvin Burgess, Chapter 16. All I wanted was to give myself up, to give anyone up. Ihan, Jeanette, Nat, anyone. Just so long as I could leave that figure behind. I ran and I ran, tripping and falling and bruising myself and telling myself over and over, you can't run from the devil, you can't run from the devil. And at last my breath gave out and I couldn't run another step. I fell over for the last time and lay there in the grass, waiting for those horns to loom across the dark sky and for that blunt, ugly head to turn towards me. I was so certain he would come that I waited there even after my breath had returned and I could hear the stillness of the night around me. Gradually I grew cold. I had been lying on the damp grass for perhaps 20 minutes. I was convinced he was just over the edge of the grass, and that the second I lifted my head, I would see him sitting next to me, waiting. But at last I couldn't stay still any more, and I raised myself up. Clouds had thickened over the moon and stars. I couldn't see more than 3 or 4 metres around me. The darkness was his. Of course, he was all around me. I crossed myself and prayed that the half-animal shape of him could not come outside the little temple his worshippers had made for him. I began to run again. If I'd had the strength, I would have run across the moors to Pendle and Parson Holden in one stretch. You can't run from the devil, but perhaps it was possible to hide from his servants, the witches. The way towards Pendle lay past Iron's house, and I had enough sense to dash in and snatch a few things for the journey. A hunk of bread, some cheese, and my money I'd hidden in a cloth by my bedside. Then I continued my flight. As I ran, I prayed under my breath, begging God to forgive me. I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry, begging him to keep me from harm, begging him to take me back from the enemy. Now I understood how cunning the devil was, just as Parson Holden had said, how he twisted and lied and entered right into your mind and heart until you no longer knew good from bad, right from wrong. I promised never to doubt what a witch really was, to deny such thoughts a home in me, to refuse even to think them. I had been a vessel for the devil's power. I had sinned so much I was unfit to live. It would be better for everyone if I were hanged. It took me half an hour to reach the pack-horse track. Although the weather had been dry lately, the passage of the horses through the long winter had made such a broken, sticky bog of the road that it was impossible on foot. I tried to run on turf alongside, but even that was so riven with potholes I could barely walk, let alone run in that dark night. I staggered and clawed my way along the ground. Every step was blind. I was quickly exhausted, but I forced myself forward. At last I came to a barn by the roadside, and I decided I would be better to save my strength for when it was light. Inside there was straw to cover me, but I was too frightened to sleep. Every rustle in the grass outside, every creak of the old beams, was some imp or sprite, and the old owl who haunted mice in the dark was the devil's eye. Then it occurred to me that surely witches too could see in the night. They would follow me and look in the barn. I was mad to be here, so I crept out and tried to lie down in the grass some way off the track, but the damp and the wind chilled me. I moved again and lay by the barn wall wrapped in straw. It was not so cold, but I still couldn't sleep. I was alone in the devil's land while the creatures of the night, all his things, watched and marked me for their master. Finally, I preferred exhaustion to this miserable waiting, and I rose in the darkness to continue. Even when the light came, it was no help. I tried to run faster, but I just fell all the more. Then I realised, of course, it had been some trick of his to make me lie down in the grass and wait for them. He lived on my own mind. Did he think they would be did I think they would be lying freezing in the grass because it was dark? How had I been so foolish? I'd lost hours with my stupidity. I was so mad with fright I even believed the ground beneath me was on his side. The way it tore and clawed me off my feet. And all the time I thought, they will know what has happened. They will know which way I've gone. They will walk faster than I. They will have horses. Their master will help them. I prayed as I ran, but I did not believe. At last, an hour after sunrise, I thought my prayers had been answered. I heard ahead of me the jangle of the rubber bells carried across on the wind. There was a pack horse train ahead of me. I pushed on. Soon I could even hear the squelch of the great hoofs in the sticky mud, and I thought as soon as I get over the rise I'll see them. I trudged on, expecting to see them round the high packs of the horses rolling on over every rise. But I forgot how sound carried across the open moor, and when I turned the top of the hill and saw the team lumbering ahead, maybe half a mile away, I could have wept. At least it was downhill now. I ran through the reedy grass, tripping and stumbling in the mud, glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see the devil himself riding over the tops after me. At last I was near enough to shout to the man at the end of the team. I tried to tell him my problem, but I was so out of breath I could hardly speak. In the end he put me atop on a shambling horse by his side and told me to catch my breath. Excuse me. When I mentioned witches, he frowned, and for a second I thought he was one himself, but it was not that that scared him. I can't put my team at risk of witches for the sake of a girl. You'll have to get down. I begged him, but he was adamant. I was sick. For all my desperation, I'd come just a few miles from Iron's house. If he put me down, I was lost. In the end, I remembered the silver coins, Iron's coins. They likely the devil's money, but I had no choice. The man stared at the sight of the silver, took it, bit it, and grinned up at me. My livelihood is safe at least, he said. The closest we're going to get to Clone is Marsden. I'll take you there, but you'll have to get down outside the town. I nodded. Anything, anywhere would have done me. The stubby Galloway horses were carrying coal on their backs across the moors. The man laid blankets atop the pack, and I was able to stretch out without any fear of tumbling off. He hid me under another blanket so I couldn't be seen, perched up high on a tall pack. It was as comfortable as a feather bed to me that moment. I was exhausted after my ordeal. The horse's rolling walk carried me away from the witches, away from Iron, the devil and all. Before I knew it, I fell asleep, rocked away across the moors like a baby in a great warm cradle. I was woken some time later by the sound of a light rain pattering on my cloak. I felt calm and clear again, and the terrors of the night before seemed less urgent. I poked my head out from under the blanket and asked where we were. Just coming down to Marsden, the man replied. You've been asleep 4 hours, girlie, he added with a smile. There's no one coming for me, I asked. They came all right. Man on a bay horse rode up and wanted to know if I'd seen a girl your age. He gave a good description of you, said you were a maidservant, running off having sold your master's money. He looked up questioningly at me. I shook my head. He shrugged. It don't matter to me if you're a saint, a witch, a beggar, a queen or a thief, so long as I have your silver in my pocket, he said cheerfully. Anyhow, I told him I passed such a girl way back before a pack horse inn, so I expect he's digging about there right now. No, don't thank me. You pay me for it. Get back under the blanket now. I don't want my mates up ahead to see what I've got on board. They'd want paying too. Here, I expect you're hungry. He handed me some water in a flask and a hunk of bread, and waved me back down and way out of sight under the blanket. I put the bread in my pocket till later, but drank some water. As we rocked down into the village of Marsden, I thought how my money had made even the villains into the nicest of men. As the dusk began to gather, the horses stopped to make camp for the night. I heard the men shouting to one another, and shortly after my helper got me down and pointed me along a valley. "There's your way to Cologne," he told me. "There's a barn just half a mile along the valley, with plenty of straw. It'll be warm and dry. Get a place to get some sleep." I thanked him and ran off into the valley before his friend spotted me. As I walked, the air got colder and the light failed, and I decided to take his advice and bed down in the barn. Alone again in the dark, some of my old fears returned, but I was still exhausted and soon fell asleep. When I woke, the sun was up. It was a bright, clear, cold day. In another few hours, I would be safely under lock and key. End of chapter 16.